It doesn't matter because we're here.
Well, also, we're live.
We
right?
are live. Yeah. Hello and welcome to Fermenting Opinions. I'm your host, David Biden.
I'm your co-host, James McVeigh.
And we are Fermenting Opinions, the podcast and Google Hangout, while we still have that, in search of a more palatable political ferment. This is February 5th, 2019. And we are here in the aftermath of the State of the Union address,
which gods could be the longest State of the Union address I've ever seen.
Yeah, I'll wait and see the statistics on that. But we just watched that. We just watched Stacey Abrams' response to that, as well as AOC's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's sort of rebuttal to some of the things that we saw tonight.
And this is Haley here, and we just want to give some hot takes on this, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yep. No, we should definitely introduce Haley Fox. Haley, pleasure as always to have you with us, our friend of the ferment.
Yeah, but we just wanted to get our hot takes from it since it was a long, long speech.
It really was. I guess, actually, Haley, what's the first thing that stood out to you, really?
Why are you spinning it to me? Come on.
I mean, I'd be happy to talk about, there was a moment where President Trump said something about how, I can't remember his exact wording, something about ridiculous partisan investigations or something are tearing this country apart. And that actually produced an eye roll from Speaker Pelosi. And I kind of tend to agree with her response on that one.
As a non-political comment, we all kind of watched the speech together, just like being on a group chat. We could video but y'all had the phone down or something, and it was right after that happened, and I picked up the mic to say something, and then all I heard was you talking about Pelosi's outfit, and you were like, and look at that jacket. And like you were like she was
Speaking of the jackets,
I was like trying to hear it, but I couldn't really hear it.
So, I was going to say, speaking of the jackets, I know a lot of people probably will have questions about what that's
about. Necklace.
And that's actually, I don't know about our necklace, but I do know that the white jackets you saw a lot of Congress people wearing were actually mostly women. I don't know if any men wore them or not, but it was a shout out.
No way. It was a shout out to the suffrage.
It was a shout out to the suffrage movement specifically, but
so it was only women.
It was kind of a nod.
It was the only time Ocasio-Cortez stood during the entire State of the Union. Was
not true, actually. I just saw a clip about that. That was kind of funny to me.
We watched it live. That's what happened.
No, but she stood to applaud ICE at one point when President Trump talked about them reducing sex trafficking, and I don't think she understood that she was applauding ICE, but that's what he was talking about.
I don't remember that.
I've already seen links pop up to that video and people talking.
You follow a lot of weird alt-right places that are obsessed with her.
Well, yeah, no. What I do is I follow a full spectrum of what's going on. I follow a lot of weird leftist stuff too. I like to know what everybody's talking.
But so, David, what was your biggest? Well, so what was the biggest takeaway from Trump's thing? I don't think we ever actually decided. What was?
He banged on forever. First of all, to the point by the end of it, everyone, no matter what side of the aisle they were on, they looked really bored.
Yeah,
and most people, I think, were stopping paying attention. This is like everyone's got their phones out and their tablets out, and they're starting to do other stuff while he's just
they done been live tweeting.
I'm trying to remember previous State of the Union addresses, and this is something that obviously needs to be fact checked, but I kind of remember an introduction of guests as being like a whole thing, like at one time, where you kind of talk about why they're there, what they're there for, and introduce them. He spread it out the entire time, and he used it to blog.
Well, it was a weird State of the Union, because it's like, well, the State of the Union is like, you're supposed to like acknowledge the State of the Union, talk about that, and then the whole point is to like then talk about your platform moving forward for the next year.
I feel like he did that.
No, all he did was talk about like a series of like moderate past accomplishments, maybe.
And then what he wants to do afterwards. I mean, he kind of was like, "Hey, here's what we're doing right. This is what I want to do."
Not really.
We're gonna work together.
The only thing that I said that I heard that only legislation I heard him say that he wanted to pass was to end late-term abortions
and infrastructure, border walls, military budgeting. I mean, all of those things were
all he did was brag about it. All he did was brag. There was no there wasn't anything that was like So one of the positives was talking about the criminal justice reform that has passed, but then there was no talk about and this is also what I want to see moving forward. Like we need it was just here's something that happened.
I'm not sure we watched.
Here's some people that I introduced.
Well, hang on. I guess there's before we get into all of that, I think a couple of things that need to be acknowledged is, one of the first thing I said, it went on a long time. Everyone seemed bored by the end of it. I was bored by the end of it, waiting to get to Stacey Abrams, who I was actually not all that impressed by either. But things that weren't acknowledged, things that some of the announcers and the news folks had said before he even started talking, I think were some of the most interesting things. That there was no acknowledgement of the fact that this was supposed to happen a week ago.
Yeah.
Right?
There was no acknowledgement of the shutdown at all.
Because Nancy Pelosi had him by the balls, more or less.
The shutdown.
Hang on.
Shutdown was also mentioned, but okay.
Not by him.
Yeah, he was given the anyway. Continue.
Right. The fact that it seemed if there was any mention of it in there, I guess I missed it, but he didn't really talk about the shutdown. The fact that it went on for 35 days.
He never said anything about it.
Paychecks and the economy, which he touted as like his biggest selling point still of how great our economy is doing. The fact that it took a pretty ugly hit over a shutdown he caused to build a wall that he didn't get. Obviously, I would expect him to spin this, but I didn't expect him to not say anything about it at all.
About the economic impact of the shutdown? About
the shutdown itself, really.
He didn't talk about the shutdown at all.
And what it was for, and
and this is one of those moments that I wish that we could go back and rewind and play clips and play gotcha.
He never mentioned shutdown.
My attention's been all over the place tonight. Go ahead.
It's okay. Again, I can't cite specifics. It was an hour and a half long thing that we just watched, but I feel was I the only one who watched it?
What did he say about the shutdown?
Yeah, how many times? At what point?
I'm not trying to challenge you. I'm asking.
Yeah, no. He was talking about the importance of uniting together and not being a party fractured system that leads to the shutdown.
You mean the first 15 minutes of platitudes?
Yeah, possibly. I don't remember exactly where it was, but yeah, he did mention that.
Did you cough up?
Yeah, no politics.
Yeah, I can't just start cranking out Trump quotes and be like, "Hey, let me tell you exactly."
The word opportunity a lot.
For the number of Republicans in that room, there was a lot of elephants that were not addressed. Okay, the fact that we had the longest shutdown in U.S. history.
Of course, he's not going to talk about that part and say, longest shutdown in history.
It's
my bad, I fucked up.
State of the Union that was pushed back because of a shutdown for a border wall.
Yes, but did you expect him to be like, yo, my bad? Do you expect him to be like, yo, my bad? I want to build a wall on the southern border, and I done fucked shit up so badly. Let me talk about how badly I fucked up.
I expect him to acknowledge the State of the Union instead of doing a series of platitudes about working together. After he literally shut down the government for 35 days, come on. Okay, so then, so he bored us for the first 20 minutes saying stuff that it was wow, the past 2 times he's talked to us, I expected him to go super doom and gloom. This is different. Oh, he was just trying to drag it out because he knows that the response could just hammer him about the shutdown, but the response didn't at all.
The shutdown didn't work out for him.
The response also failed.
But it's not just that. It's the fact that we're about 10 days away from the next shutdown. That was not mentioned either.
Yeah, it's called the State of the Union.
Wait, yes, it was. Yes, it specifically was. He actually gave the days. I think he said it's actually not 10 days, 15 or something like that, or 12. He specifically said the number of days until the next shutdown when he addressed the shutdown. Did you guys watch this speech? David, you were right here.
I kind of thought I did.
I know you were talking to Haley and you had the headphones on, and that's kind of why I said by myself. Okay. But yeah, he specifically mentioned the number of days until the next shutdown. His hope that we can all come together and fix this. What are we talking about?
Wait, but isn't that date February 15th?
That's the deadline date, I think, actually.
Yeah, and isn't that 10 days, which is what David just said?
Okay, yeah, he said,
Right, but
why are you picking it apart?
hang on a
I'm
second.
talking about he addressed it specifically
guys, come on.
and
He
gave
never,
it.
he never acknowledged the
Not
shutdown.
arriving yet. Let's stop.
He
Not arriving
never
yet.
acknowledged that the government was shut down for 35 days.
We didn't say 35 days. I don't know about that
Well, no,
part,
he
but he
never
specifically
acknowledged that
said,
it was shut down in the past.
Yes,
Saying
yes,
that it
yes, he
could be
did.
shut down in the future is one thing.
he did.
He didn't
He
even
said-
acknowledge that it was shut down in the
I mean,
past.
we are arguing about
misremembered about what he
facts.
said.
Why are we fighting about facts? Yes, he did.
I'm not fighting. I'm just saying what happened.
If I'm wrong, then I apologize. But
Yeah,
it's my impression he didn't address the fact that another shutdown is looming.
But
I understand he made references to we need to choose greatness and all this stuff and choose moving forward.
I don't recall him doing a
no,
government is looming thing, but I do know that it's February 15th.
We could all break this down later and we
Okay.
can fact check it, but I will admit when I'm wrong
Okay,
if that
that's
happens.
fine. And
But I
so
think he
I.
called out the number of days and specifically mentioned that he hopes there could be a partisan or a bipartisan
but it
agreement.
wasn't 10 days.
I don't know if it was 10 days or
It
not.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't.
I don't know.
He did.
My biggest thing was he bragged about taxes.
Specifically, which part?
Just the tariffs and stuff.
Yeah, because I remember he was talking about the billions and billions of dollars America saved in their coffers or something like that.
No, he was talking about like billions of dollars being in American like coffers. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the terminology exactly.
Coffers
So he was bragging about the tariffs and like talking about China, and it was like insinuating that like the tariffs were, you know, like China was hurting because of our tariffs. It was like no, because the tariffs are taxes. It's us paying taxes on goods that we import from China that we've always imported. It's us paying more for the same goods. And so like no checks from China have come through. It's checks from Americans. And I just, it's weird to see a Republican, member of the GOP brag about filling the U.S. government with billions of dollars of taxes. Like that's weird.
Is that can you explain the nuance?
Yeah, that's what I was
going to
ask you to do that too.
What other and then immediately switching to infrastructure spending?
Because no one's calling it.
Like talking about filling up, like bringing up tariffs, and then immediately going and we want to hire government contracts for infrastructure spending to build up stuff. It's like, okay, and it has to be American made. So American small businesses who get those contracts are going to have to pay the tariffs on the raw goods that they import to build this stuff. And the American taxpayers are paying for that increase that they had to spend for the raw goods and for the increased money that they had to spend to do the contract.
Hang on. I want to clarify because I don't understand exactly what you're saying. Are you saying that Americans will have to pay import or export taxes on a product that's not being imported or exported?
No, like it's the same good. It just costs more because you live here, and that's where it's being shipped to.
Wait, no, but he said that he wants to use American steel for these projects, and steel is talking about under tariff. So if he uses American steel,
it's just going to cost more money here because there's a scarcer supply.
Okay, so the price has been driven up by his tariffs, is what you're saying.
So it's going to cost more for Americans to buy the same goods that used to not nearly cut with tariffs. Like it's just going to make it really a lot more expensive for small businesses, especially.
So what we're saying is that American steel has gone up in price if you're buying it in America because of the tariff.
I don't know if like that. Don't ask me stock numbers right now.
No, I don't mean stock. I'm sorry. I'm not saying stock numbers. Let's talk generally. I'm saying that what he said was he wanted to use American steel. He was going to use American steel for these infrastructure projects. And that's just one raw material. And American
you can't build everything with steel.
I know. American steel is. I thought that's what we were just talking about. I'm sorry. I
tariffs in general are just a tax that you pay on any kind of good.
Yes.
Be it any kind, wood, lumber, like all the kinds of raw materials that you can think of. Various kinds of metals, energies, plastics.
Aren't the tariffs specifically from China on steel and aluminum?
Well, we pay pay more for the same goods that we used to buy from China, and we pay the American government. It's a tax.
Yes, no, I know exactly. I think I understand what you're saying. What I'm asking is, in this specific example you gave about tariffs on American steel or American infrastructure projects, if we're going to use American steel and aluminum, how are we paying tariffs double? Or what? I'm sorry, I'm confused.
We don't have this. We don't have we used to pay less money for steel, and now if we buy it from that place, it costs more. But part of that check is just cut to the American government, or you could go to other sources and they cost more. You had to pay more money for goods. That's what tariffs mean.
Yes. Okay, so I think what
and she's calling that a tax. That's
exactly.
That's a tax.
You added the added cost to American people. It would be a taxpayers if we're talking infrastructure.
I mean, we already are getting it, and we're already buying it.
So that's what I'm asking is that
all it is
so the price has gone up.
Place.
The price has gone up simply because of these tariffs. That we've increased the market value
on ourselves.
Steel and
not a market value. The cost of the good remains the same. It's just for us to buy it from there. Here, us Americans, we've imposed it costs more money if we buy it from this place.
But during the State of the Union address, Donald Trump just said that we are only going to use American-made steel and aluminum. So we're not buying it
for government contracts. So we're going to increase taxpayer spending to fund a contract to build some big thing out of steel. And it's going to cost people who need to buy steel. They can't buy it from that one place because they get the same amount. And they cut a check to the American government just because they bought it from there. Or they can go to other suppliers, but that's probably going to be more expensive because they don't have as much of the supply.
But trying to fact check what the president said.
That's going to take like a day.
Well, no, I'm just based on
he was celebrating taxes.
But just based on what he just said, again, the question is, if he's going to use taxpayer money to build infrastructure projects for American steel and aluminum, how does that mean people are paying more as taxpayers for steel and aluminum if they're not subject to his tariffs? How is the tariff a tax at that point? Wouldn't we just?
We don't have the supply. We don't have that amount of resources.
So what we're doing is we're calling bullshit on his ability to get aluminum and steel for the amount we need from America.
Do you know how hard it is to make aluminum?
Yes. I'm asking.
No, I don't. It is there's
guys, we're gonna have to move on from this though, okay? Because we had some viewers who killed them all by
aluminum is an element that we don't have a high supply of. Yeah, aluminum is an element that America is not high in supply of.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So I get generally your point, Haley.
That's fine. Yeah.
It's cool. What else do we think about the things that were said or offered? Because I want to touch on the fact that to me, the whole thing seemed really disjointed and really disconnected, that there were segues from points he was trying to hit that were bizarre, to say the least.
A little confusing.
He goes from a little kid with cancer, which, and they all do this. They create around some survivor of something or what have you, and they use this to springboard some talking point. And he went from that to something about cancer research to school vouchers, like almost immediately after that. And then from there, he jumped into military spending, in terms of, protecting American people.
He did pledge $500 million to cancer research.
Mm-hmm. There was some moment. I think that
was the other legislation that he wanted to happen.
Yeah, there was.
But I don't know. That was my biggest takeaway. Was just kind of it seemed disjointed. I don't know. It seemed sort of flat overall.
Oh yeah, especially the way it was drawn out. What I was talking about earlier is I don't understand the concept of using your guests as pivot points. It was kind of I feel like you should walk away from a State of the Union with sort of a general roadmap of what he kind of whoever's in charge wants to see happen within the next year. And I don't know, that was just following. There were a couple of points that really stuck out to me. I think, David, you were just talking about with this whole we've never done more for American-born or unborn children.
Oh.
And then he immediately segued into, and we also spend, or no, he didn't say American-born, right? He just said unborn or born or unborn children. He just segued immediately into how much money we dump into the military. And my mind is over here.
Americans applied there, right? Isn't that an interesting point?
Yeah.
You're talking about, then we go and sort of, we drop bombs on.
Yeah, my question is that like, what on earth does increasing American military budgeting do to protect children? That's the antithesis.
Pretty much, yeah. Which is funny because he made a very religious reference to, the unborn being like God's. I can't remember the verse.
Yeah, because he definitely touched on
God's babies.
Right? He definitely touched on the so-called New York abortion law.
Yeah,
but he touched on faith a few times.
Yeah,
the early on, like I've mentioned, the first 20 minutes being a series of platitudes, but he kind of, he was ending it with like Americans having greater access to opportunities, being richer and deeper in faith.
Yes,
and I don't know.
That's how he keeps the evangelical crowd.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, that's fine. That's absolutely common, and Democrats do that too. Actually, Democrats talk about enriching faith, and we've never had anybody who's not a Christian president. So
faith in what? Faith in the dollar? Like what do we?
No,
faith there's so many different forms of faith, and they're being so specific to that. Like, come on, like
we're
the
on
concept of faith in general. Like, come on.
We're on the 45th president of the United States. They've all been Christian. They're talking about God, the Christian God. That's what they're talking about. I mean, that's
all it is.
I mean,
speaking of Christianity, I'm going to use this as a segue. After this, and Christianity deepening our faith, and protecting the unborn, and life is sacred, and he goes, it was actually preceded this. Basically talking about, brown people bad, with the race baiting, illegal immigrant criminals, and they killed this person's mom and dad, and here they are parading them
again.
around.
I thought it was. I mean, now granted, I'm used to.
It's deeply racist.
I'm
saying racist shit.
Now again, granted, I'm probably
those things we know what to think.
I'm probably used to the Donald Trump rhetoric at this point.
Yeah,
and it's usually a lot worse. I didn't think it was that bad. I don't think anything he said was that race baity. Well, that's just me.
That's fine. It's not worse than it has been. You're right. He didn't do the.
No, so it's significantly toned down. Actually, it's significantly toned down. Yeah, I know. And he didn't say Mexicans are rapists. Like it's significantly toned down to his normal shit.
But it's still bad.
I know what he wants to do.
Deprivation.
So I didn't feel like I don't think he ever said anything. I feel like his comments were way more obviously sexist. Like he literally said America is the hottest economy, and he said. Wait,
that's sexist.
Can I finish this point here?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean. Again, it's all these things. And again, I was going to refer this back to the Christianity. The things that he's talking about, like border crisis and the walls and how they do and how in certain countries or areas, how effective walls are, blah, 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 blah. These are all points that have been disproven categorically over and over and over again.
Yes.
I wanted to make like a young earth creationist kind of analogy to this. Like they can get up there and they can do their little speech and talk about why they think young earth creationism is true. And they just repeat these things despite the fact they've been refuted. It's called a Pratt point refuted 1,000 times. Kind of
yes.
Thing. You can get up there and say it again anyway. Mm-hmm. And you have this this moment of frustration of everything you're saying is wrong. It's all been proven. Everything you're saying is wrong. And you just say it again anyway. And that is literally what he's doing. He did it here at City Union. He did it a couple of weeks ago when he was talking about offering a quasi-compromise to end the shutdown. Remember that? He came on some special report. Was him just saying immigrants bad, build a wall. That's why we're doing this. Hang in there, government workers. I'm not paying. He did all of that basically just to forward the same stupid, broken argument that no one seems to care is stupid or broken.
But,
and then he just did it again, and it deserves to be acknowledged, even though no one's going to do anything about it.
Are we just talking about his repeated rhetoric based on false facts about building a wall?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I was going to say I don't think that's racist necessarily, but yes, I agree with you.
Not racist. I'm just saying it's broken and bad and has been refuted, and
he's a jerk.
It just doesn't matter.
I don't know about him being. Well, I mean, okay. First of all, Donald Trump's a jerk. I don't think anyone has to disagree with that. I mean, he's an absolute asshole. But I will say that
this isn't me calling. This isn't an argument for that he's a racist, because
I was going to say
you either know he is or you.
I think we have to pick our terms in the words we say, because it sounded like you were calling him a racist. I would say, okay, cool.
I mean, yes, he is, but that's not part of what I was saying.
You can make plenty of arguments about that. I don't think in this speech that you have that. But yes, he did repeat a bunch of untrue shit about why his wall needs to be built. Right. I think we all know at this point, every argument he's got for that wall is pretty much shot.
Yes. We are
trying. And the stuff that he said about El Paso was that's a direct jab at Beto and everything, and it's just I
think the concentration is on El Paso and Juarez, and that's a huge hotspot of actual death and murder over drugs. But most of it's
it's not. No, it's not. Not at all.
Juarez? Are you shitting me?
No,
are you
I am
fucking
not.
kidding?
No.
Oh yeah, no. People aren't murdered by the thousands in Juarez every year.
I mean, that's every major city.
No, it's not.
A lot of.
No.
Okay, let's not just do the ridiculous.
No, we can fact check that
one. Come on. No, honestly, El Paso is a very safe city. It's been a very safe city for numerous years, and
I wasn't talking about El Paso. I was talking about Juarez.
They're a border town, and they do have this fencing area that is patrolled by border agents and everything. And then in this past September, Trump forcibly built a portion of the wall there, and then he talked about the wall in El Paso that he just built, and El Paso has been this very safe place to live for a good number of years now, James. And come on, don't just.
I mean, I'm literally fact checking you right now, and they average 2,000 murders a year. That's
in El Paso.
No, in Juarez. Literally across the border.
She was just talking about El Paso.
No, I understand.
Okay.
When you talk about El Paso, you talk about Juarez.
No, I'm talking. Those are two different cities.
I'm well aware they're two different cities.
Then there is a border between the two, and there's been fencing between the two. There wasn't a wall between the two, an actual physical wall, until September of this past year, and El Paso has been an extremely safe city to live in for a long time. Please don't cite to me statistics about a different city. You're going to try to do this fact check thing. We should probably wrap this now, though.
Yeah, let's just a few final thoughts. Do we want to talk about sort of the reaction from Miss Abrams and
you mean predictable and boring?
Yeah, I mean Abrams. Yeah, she gave sort of a stump speech. She did hit on a couple of things that I thought were worthy of mentioning. With regards to, that Trump talked about the economy and how great it's going and and everything's great. And she talked about how, people are being laid off, people are being left behind, people are living paycheck to paycheck still. It's not actually.
I thought that her impact, her statement that she could have hit harder was that, our young people are heavily, the access to education and crippling young people with student loans, and not setting loose this great asset that we have, which is an educated, force of young people, equipped in skills and stuff. If we just wouldn't if we'd actually invest in them and not overly burden them with student loans.
Yeah, no, I think that was a good point. She brought up school shootings, which weren't touched on at all, and that was continues to be a huge problem. And voter suppression, which is widely credited for her not actually winning, because she ran for, was it governor of Georgia?
I felt that she sort of did what Trump did in a condensed form, in that she told a series of stories that were, they made sense, but she had good moments where she'd say a good line or two. Yeah. But overall, it was another series of platitudes.
And the thing, I guess it's I was not impressed by it, I'll say, to be honest. But on the other hand, there's no way you can put together a speech in 5 minutes riffing off of that hour and a half, like.
Yeah,
just
that's what the basis of her speech. The basis of her speech was to same thing is always to give the opposing parties platform, kind of summed up.
And she did.
But I would like to point out on this fact check that El Paso is the 56th most deadly city in the world as of last year. It is the 7th most deadly city in America, and El Paso and Juarez. And I'm saying Juarez comes in at number 20. No, I don't think a wall is going to have anything to do with it because the wall already exists between El Paso and Juarez. I just don't want to be challenged on this. It's just stupid. You know nothing about this actual thing. Yeah.
So it's fine.
Other things I wanted to
dangerous city.
So
dangerous.
I do
56th most dangerous city in the world.
Mention
it is. Sorry,
it's okay. It's okay. The softball mention about it's going to be USA's rockets going into space again. Hint Space Force. I thought that was worth mentioning.
Well, actually, I mean, but I didn't know if he meant the fact that we have been using we've been using a lot of Russian equipment for our space endeavors, and we just
we had
in 2011 that launch pad, and we've been using a Russian launch pad for our space stuff.
Yeah, and I guess what he was probably bragging about is SpaceX and their innovations coming out of America.
Well, but he said American rockets, so that's why I didn't know if he meant American-made stuff or we're gonna stop using a Russian launch pad and stuff.
It's probably been a combination of both, I would guess. I don't know. I mean, SpaceX is
going to be more expensive because of the tariffs that I explained earlier. We've got the same stuff.
Well, relatively speaking, actually, under SpaceX, it's 90% less cost than what we're used to.
That's just a pulled out number out of nothing that's attached to nothing.
It's not true either. Actually, I can link you to that as well.
I know.
Y'all fight like a married couple, I swear.
Well, I mean, but it's kind of important to have a general grasp on facts about certain things.
Stop. Snark. Because I'm trying to. I wrote a couple of pages of notes on this shit, and we touched barely any of it.
So wrap it up for us then.
Yeah. Okay. So. The one final, the big talking point he talked about, backing out of INF, simultaneously, more or less with Russia. That's denuclearization of, what is it, intermediate range,
Yeah, basically, welcome back to Cold War, comrades.
That sounds it doesn't mean we're going to start building a bunch more nukes now, but we're not really going to care so much or have any treaty with Russia that's going to say, no, you can't do that. That strikes me as deeply problematic. But we don't know really what's going to happen with that yet. Just the fact that he made that a talking point, it was a good thing that happened. That to me
sounds. And he also made the talking point that NATO has increased its defense funding, and it's because it's not that the more obvious reason is probably exactly that. Russia's building up nukes.
Yeah, I was gonna.
It's not because America's whining about them not paying as much.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would completely agree with that. I mean, that's an absolutely stupid thing for him to talk about on.
So it's he said that, but he bragged about NATO. It's just so weird that he can brag about things that are really bad.
Isn't NATO the same organization he keeps talking about wanting to get the hell out of?
Russia wants us out of it. It's the United,
people,
but they're not in.
Talking about how NATO's bullshit and he doesn't want to be a part of it, right?
North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Yes, yeah, it is, and the INF thing was the really shocking part. I saw a lot of people just on instant reactions online about oh, we pulled out of the INF, what? And I'm yeah, that happened a week ago, and Russia followed suit. Yeah. Are you guys not paying attention to the news? This is bad. That's really terrible. I mean, granted, Russia has been shitting on the INF for the last decade, and we just kind of let it happen.
Right.
But the fact that we pulled out officially meant that Russia followed suit.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and immediately though.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple. I think it was
immediately.
The last couple of years of Bush the second's administration. Russia was already violating the INF and really just didn't give a shit and just continued on with their lives. And Obama put up with it for 8 years. And then We did for
well,
a little
no,
bit.
I mean, Obama called them out on it. That's the one time I
Yeah,
can think
but
of,
we
an acting
continued
U.S.
to,
president calling Russia out. Or
we
something.
continued
That
to
happened.
abide by it while they did not. And I'm saying now Trump's up here saying, no, we're out. And then Russia's like, oh, it's cool. We're out too. Well, no shit, Russia. You've been out for 10 years. You know,
So
I don't, yeah, I still think it was really dumb for Donald Trump to sit there and talk about what an accomplishment was for him to leave the INF. Like, not really, man.
Well, and then and like hand in hand with that is like the veiled sort of like you won't get any legislation if you're engaged in all kinds of investigations. I think he like said that kind of as a rhyme.
Yeah, that's the thing that I kind of wanted to bring up, and I kind of did a little bit, was his obsession where he had to name drop. Well, he didn't name drop Mueller's investigation, but he basically just said like
he said the word investigation.
Yeah, partisan investigation.
But he rhymed it
He called it like
we can't make America great again so long as there's partisan investigations going on. Isn't like stop investigating like all
going on here,
all my people involved
right,
including probably my son. That's going to be
speaking of. Yeah, I thought that was fun.
We got to wrap this, guys.
Yeah. That's fair.
I guess last thing to mention, all the women in white blazers that had to do with women's suffrage.
It was a
women's
right to
vote
thing
for women for 100 years now, and also the number of women who are now in Congress. Trump kind of sort of took credit for that.
He did.
It's kind of like Anakin.
He should have.
Honestly, by killing
he should have taken more credit for it. He missed his opportunity when Pelosi and the Women's Caucus in general kind of like made a joke out of it with the applause, and he didn't really know what to do with it. Everyone started kind of laughing at him. He should have made the joke at that moment that, look, I've made more women jobs in Congress than ever before, or something like that. Like, I brought more women into jobs than anyone.
I don't know. I already thought that he was crossing the line, David. I think that you said it best, like whenever we were just talking before the response, I believe was something along the lines of Trump bragging about more women elected to Congress is like the flu, bragging about people who were infected with it and now have better antibodies against it.
Yeah, that's very well put. Actually, but I was going to say, it's like taking credit, for the immune system responding to the disease.
Self-depreciating jokes are funny. That was kind of my point too. Is that you should just be over here like, hey, look, you guys think I'm all bad, but look, I put more women in Congress than ever before. That would. I don't think
he's really that self-effacing, but. Yeah, that could have been a good.
That would have been a great joke. Instead, he turned around and made the whole night.
I would not appreciated that at all.
He should have. I mean, he should have done it, but he didn't.
Especially you.
No.
But he turned around and got the same joke with the 19th Amendment thing, and he was like, "Actually, don't sit down."
We just saw like a bunch of people like weirdly chant USA while like this very divisive time in their political ability to accomplish anything because it's so divisive is at a halt while they chant USA. I don't know.
There's two different.
It's actually a very common thing to have happen.
That is, I mean,
during every State of the Union that I've ever seen in my life for the last 20 years.
Yeah, they USA. So
every time.
That's
so
not a
weird.
thing.
It's so weird.
I agree. I completely agree. No, don't get me wrong. Yes, it's weird. It's been nationalistic and weird my entire life.
Like,
but that's
weird.
I'm not gonna pin that on Trump.
That's a little much.
But on that bipartisan note, I think we should probably wrap it up here for real. That was interesting. I think we've got more rough waters ahead for us if we don't come to some better resolution on all this crap about border walls and funding and that we don't end up in another damn shutdown. I am not a faithful person, so I'm a little cynical about how this is going to go, but we're going to wait and see. And we're gonna be around, and we're gonna still be talking and bickering with each other.
Of course, we will.
That said, I want to give a shout out to Ross James at James Media. He's our digital wizard and helps make all the buttons and dials work. And
God bless him for
you guys on quasi
Ross is awesome.
Like this. Ross is awesome.
Ross is awesome.
Please check out his own work at jamesmedia.com. You can find us. We're here on YouTube, fermentingopinions.com. Also on Facebook. We have a public page and a group. If you're seeing this in any of those places, you're probably already aware of the others. Like, follow, share, do all that cool stuff so we can get famous. With that said, I'm David Biden.
I'm James McVeigh.
And we are Fermenting Opinions. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Haley, for joining us. Cheers.